All right, Coach, season gets underway. 2013-14 season gets underway Saturday. It's already here, and I know you're probably excited. So just talk about how the preseason's been. You've been with the guys now for a long enough time, so you've had a few scrimmages. Just talk about what you've seen so far through the preseason.
Well, I think we've been a little bit in terms of us, up and down the preseason. We've had a lot of injuries, been banged up, probably as banged up as we've been in the preseason I've been here. But guys have gotten better here. We played our first outside scrimmage a few weeks ago. I think over the three we saw some significant improvement. And really the last week we've started to kind of practice to the standard we need to in terms of how hard we play, how tough we got to play in order to be successful. We've got a group that is really young. We got some guys that I think are talented but haven't done it yet. And I think we're facing a league that's probably going to be the best it's been since I've been here in terms of amount of returning players, and you throw some new teams in the mix as well. So I think it's shaping up to be as difficult a schedule, as difficult a run as we've ever had. And so we're going to have to really, and like I said, our margin for error is a little bit thinner than it's been in terms of having so many young guys. So we need to be really, really locked in terms of how tough we play, the energy level we play with, and how hard we got to play to be successful.
And of course, I guess one of the burdens of success is that it's a reputation that builds on itself, and it creates a reputation. A lot of expectations this season. First in the preseason SAC poll that was released last week, 15th in the preseason NABC Division II coaches poll, 13th in Division II bulletin poll. So just talk about the mindset of those expectations and how that kind of dictates the way you run the team this year, or maybe just dictates this season.
Well, we've always been, I think without question, our league in terms of coaching, probably from top to bottom. I don't know every league in the country, Division II, but I would say the South Atlantic Conference, top to bottom in men's basketball. There's no league in the country with better coaches than our league. They are horrible prognosticators, though, in terms of picking stuff. I told somebody, I said it makes, last year we had Jake Troyley, who was a 1,500-point scorer, Cam Carr, an 1,100-point scorer, Wally Jones, one of the best three-point shooters in school history, and Dustin Craig. And they don't pick us to win the league, and now we lose all those guys, and they do pick us to win the league. So, but in terms of expectations, we don't really focus too much on that. We've always been really locked into what we got to do to play to our ceiling. We worry about ourselves. We really try to lock in terms of the process of getting better and what we need to do to play our best basketball, individually and collectively, and not spend a whole lot of time focused on, what other people think. I don't think that stuff, being picked to win it or not being picked to win it or being ranked or unranked. I think that stuff only has an effect if it affects you individually as a player or as a coach or whatever the case may be. And, I don't think it provides any more motivation. Our opponents, are going to be motivated. Everybody wants to win. We're a team that I think people will circle on their calendar in terms of when we come to town anyway. So all that stuff we've dealt with in terms of expectations and being a big game on the people's schedule. That being said, this team has to kind of create its own identity. The rankings from a national standpoint, and probably even in the conference, is more of a kind of a lifetime achievement award based on what we've been able to do the last 4 years. We've got some really good pieces, but we've got a lot of guys, like I said, that are talented but haven't done it yet. And so, we have a really high ceiling in terms of, I think this may be, from a ceiling standpoint, as high a ceiling as we've had. But we also probably are further away from our ceiling at this stage than we've been previous years, just because we're so young, we don't know what we're doing yet. So, and with the amount of tough games we have early in the year, we play a number of what I think will be NCAA tournament teams before Thanksgiving. We're going to have to get good fast in order to be able to compete and navigate this difficult schedule. Okay,
let's discuss personnel a little bit now. You'd already alluded to Dustin Craig and Jake Troyley. Those guys are gone. They accounted for in the ballpark of 20 points a game, 15 boards per game. And you've got your leading scorer and leading rebounder coming back from last season, Vincent Bedley, who was a preseason all-conference first-team selection. But after Jake, who do you expect to make up for that production and pick up for what we lose with those two guys?
Well, I think, we don't have, we've been really kind of fortunate the last 4 years. We've had two all-conference post players each of the last 4 years. You go back, DeMario and Dez were able to do that twice together. You go to the next year, Desmond and Vinny were all-conference. Last year, Vinny and Jake were all-conference. So you have 4 straight years where you have 2 all-conference post players. We think Vinny's is an anchor for us. Obviously, I think he's as good a post as there is probably in our league, and one of the better ones, regionally, nationally. He's got to play at an All-American level for us to have the type of season that we are capable of having. But he's got to have an unbelievable year for us, and he's never really been a guy that has had to kind of carry the water in terms of he's been surrounded by their good players. And now is a year where he's got to really step forward, and teams are going to be gunning for him. He's going to see a lot of double teams and different things defensively. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he responds to all that. In terms of, that's the big question with Jake and with Dustin going. Talking about losing about 21 points and 14, 15 rebounds a game. We got 3 guys in there in Keenan Peterson, Curtis McMillian, and Paul Woodson that are going to look to kind of have to replace that production. None of them are really like a Jake or a Dustin. I think they got to kind of grow into their own version of themselves. But all 3 guys are capable. Keenan's, 6'10", 250. He's been in the program for 4 years. He's a guy that, has played in small spurts. He's got to extend those small spurts into long spurts, and he's got to be a guy that plays consistently tough and aggressive. And when he does, I think he's a guy that's a chance to be a double-figure scorer for us. Curtis McMillian's a guy who played last year at the end of last season and really came on strong in the South Atlantic Conference tournament, in the NCAA tournament. He's a redshirt sophomore, and he's a guy we think has tremendous upside. Is probably our best shot blocker and as good a rebounder as we have. And Paul Woodson's a guy that redshirted last year as a freshman. He's not a true low post player in the sense of he's not a guy with a great base in terms of strength, but he's a guy that's unbelievably active. He runs the floor like a deer. He can block shots. He's probably our best rebounder. He and Kurt certainly are, and he's a guy that we think can impact with his energy and activity. And but those guys have got to be consistently productive, and thus far in the preseason, they've done well in spurts, and we have to look at. Potentially with, if they don't, we'll play some more 4-guard lineups, some different things to get our best players on the floor. But I do have a lot of faith in Keenan, in Curtis, and in Paul that those guys will step up, play well, and they're going to have to for us to have a chance to have a success this year.
And you'd already also alluded to this too, is that I think one of the concerns you're not going to have with this team is in the backcourt. And it's I know since I've been following LMU basketball and been involved with the program, this is probably the best set of guards that we've had across the board. You've got, of course, Lorenzo Ross. He was a second-team all-conference selection last year. Chance Jones, probably arguably our best player down the stretch last year. Tim Pierce, Curtis Webb after a redshirt year. You've got a ton of guys. So just talk about that group that you have to work with this year.
Well, I do agree with you. I think from a backcourt standpoint, it's probably the best depth we've had. It's probably the most athletic we've been. We lost 2 really not only really good players in Cam Carden and Wally Jones. We lost a tremendous amount of IQ when those guys graduated because they were so smart within how we played. This group is younger, much more athletic group. Obviously starts with Lorenzo Ross. We talked about Vinny Bailey inside, and if you're going to start a team, the best place to start, in my opinion, is with an anchor in the post and a great point guard. And certainly in Vinny in the post and Lorenzo at the point, we think we have those 2 positions at a high level. He's really improved. I think he's gotten better. He's elevated his game from last year. I think he'll have a chance to have a great year for us. And just like Vinny, he needs to. He's a guy that's got to be really, really good for us to have a chance to have some success. Tim Pierce is probably, in my opinion, the most talented guy on the team. He's 6'3", can do a multitude of things. He played limited minutes last year, but when Lorenzo went down and was hurt and CJ was out, he stepped in as a starting point guard, and we went 3-0 in the crux of the season, and he played really well in that stretch and made all-freshman team despite only playing like 12 or 13 minutes a game. So he's a guy who will see more minutes and has a chance to have a really good year. Chance Jones, I think, averaged 13 points a game our last 6 or 7 games of the year. Again, with injuries, stepped in and got some really good experience and was certainly our best player, I thought, in the postseason, the South Atlantic Conference tournament and the NCAA tournament. C.J. Wakely's back from a broken foot. CJ's a guy that was averaging 17 minutes a game when he went down last year. he's probably been our most improved player. If you're looking at a guy who's probably elevated his game the most, I would say CJ is probably the most improved player on our team from last year. And then you got two redshirt freshmen, Luquan Choice out of South Carolina and Curtis Webb out of South Carolina. Luquan's a 6'3", 220-pound wing. He's has a chance to be maybe the best shooter we've had here. He's a guy that's got a quick release, shoots it tremendously well. He's got a lot of skills. He can handle the ball. He can pass it. He's got great size and strength. As his motor develops, he's a guy that we think will have a tremendous impact just because of his ability to make shots and stretch the floor. And Curtis Webb is another guy, 6'4", 200 pounds, lockdown defender, can slash it, shoots the ball at a decent level. He's a guy that just plays every possession the way it's supposed to. I think he and Chance will be probably as good a steal you an extra possession guys as there are in the league, and every team needs that, a guy that can go and steal some extra possessions. Those guys will great offensive rebounders for their position, and will do some things to certainly help us win. So those six guys in the backcourt are certainly the best in terms of quality, depth, and those things. And so we think, unlike maybe the last few years, our strength will probably lay in the backcourt as opposed to the front court. But we hope, obviously, to be balanced like we've been, and that our front court will catch up here over the next few weeks.
All right, Coach, you had talked about how this team needs to create its own identity, and so just from your standpoint, what kind of identity does the 2013-14 Rels players need to create to be as successful as you want them to be?
Well, I think our identity, I always hope, is the same. But this year's team, we've been pretty good defensively the last few years. I think the last 5 years, we've ranked number one in the South Atlantic Conference, in the top 15 nationally in field goal percentage defense. Most years in the top 10 nationally. So we've been good defensively. This year's team has got to be great defensively because we don't have a guy that just jumps up and makes shots like Troy Lee did last year, or Wally Jones or Carden. It may be more of a labor at times for us to score than it's been in terms of previous years. So we've got to be, again, not good. We've got to be great defensively. We've got to be a great rebounding team. We've got to, philosophically, it's always, us get one or more shots of possession and hold our opponents to one or less shots of possession. In terms of, the things that we believe when we got to get shots, we can't be careless with the ball. We've got to, get a shot every possession. We got to get a quality one every possession. Those four things, since I've been here, have kind of been the cornerstones of our program. We want to be great defense. We want to challenge every shot. But we want to lock in and be as good as we can be. No easy baskets. In terms of rebound the ball, we've been, I think, the last 4 years or 5 years of the league in rebound margin. We've got to be a great rebounding team. We're not as physically big as we've been in previous years, so we're going to have to do it. We have to be tougher. In terms of offensively, we've got to take care of the ball. We've got to get a shot every possession. And then the last thing is we've got to make sure we're getting quality shots. And if we can do those things, we're going to give ourselves a chance to be in a lot of games and compete. Our margin for error, again, is not what it's been. We probably don't individually have as many elite guys as we've had. But collectively, I think we can be every bit as good and maybe even better when it counts the most, because I do think we're the most athletic we've been. This should be the best defensive team we've had. It's a team that so far has been unselfish, shares the ball, takes good shots, and so those things are in place. Now we got to get tougher. We got to be able to play harder for longer periods, and we got to take care of the ball. But some of the base stuff that we need is in place, and over the next few months, we're interested to see how these guys kind of evolve and develop.
All right, thanks for your time, Coach. Season gets underway, 7 o'clock here at Texas Turner Arena this Saturday against Tawassee, and we wish you the best of luck all season, Coach.
Thanks, Scotty. We appreciate it. Look forward to seeing everybody Saturday. Should be an unbelievable conference season, and should be some great games, some great teams. So hope everybody gets out, makes it, and do want to just thank everybody for coming out. We obviously smallest market probably in the league. And again, last year for the, I think, third or fourth year in a row, led the league in attendance. And so that's a credit to the people here and the passion they have for it. And it's a big part of the success we'll be able to have. So we appreciate you coming out and hope to see you starting this Saturday.